Okay, we're getting ready to sign up for YouTube and be live. Turn your cell phones off. Tell me when it's ready, Andrea. You're good to go. Good to go? Great. I am going to. All right. All right. I think we're ready to go. I hope everybody can hear me. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you join me in saluting the flag first, please? I pledge
allegiance to the flag
of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. This is June 17th. This is our, no, that didn't work. This is our regular agenda meeting, and we have a lot to cover tonight. The first order of business would normally be to approve the minutes, but I believe the minutes haven't been distributed yet, so we're going to postpone that vote until July 15th. So that allows us to get to our special presentation even quicker. And I am pleased to introduce to everyone tonight Mr. John Dulligan from Altice Optimum. I like to say both so people understand that Optimum is connected to Altice. And tonight, John, I think you're going to have somebody with you that you may want to introduce, and the format will be for everybody to listen to the presentation, and then we have some written questions, and then some people will submit questions on the chat, and we'll go through them with you. Okay? So, John, why don't you unmute and take it away?
All right. Well, thank you, Supervisor, and thank you to the town board for having us tonight. My name is John Delahan. As the Supervisor said, I'm Director of Government Affairs for Altice. With me tonight is Ed Russo, who is Vice President of Field Operations for the Greater Hudson Valley region, which includes Dutchess, Putnam, Ulster, Westchester, that sort of general region of our footprint. So what we're going to do tonight is I'm just going to give a brief background on the company, sort of where we came from Altice, or excuse me, Cablevision Altice to where we are, talk about the partnership between Altice and Unionvale, and then get into some of the network performance, customer service, where we were sort of with the pandemic, and then sort of where we are today. And then sort of a look at the future of what we're looking to do in terms of building out our network. So I'll start with the background. So Altice purchased Cablevision in 2006. As you remember, Cablevision had been around for quite some time prior to that. Altice also purchased Suddenlink, which is a cable company out west. And then together we have 21 states in our footprint now within the states. A lot of folks think that Altice is a foreign company, although our parent company Altice is from Europe. Once they purchased both Cablevision and Suddenlink, they spun off the company into a larger joint company titled Altice USA. So that formed in 2018. So the operational team and the senior executives are all here in the States, and we're headquartered in Long Island City, Queens. And now to transition to the partnership with Unionvale. So our partnership really comes together on our non-exclusive franchise agreement. So that really allows Optimum access to the right-of-way in the town in exchange for paying town franchise fees. The constructs of that agreement are really dictated by the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, and the New York Public Service Commission. They define the terms and sort of, as I said, set the structure. The agreement is video related. So broadband and other sort of services, ancillary services are not within the confines of the agreement because broadband is still determined by the FCC to be an unregulated information service. And also just to touch on sort of rates and fees, which is always sort of a topic of interest. We're in a competitive marketplace, and that means the FCC deemed our footprint, meaning the whole Optimum territory, as effective competition is the term they use in 2015, which means we no longer go to the New York Public Service Commission for oversight of rates because they deemed enough competition in the area that that's no longer necessary. And I'd just like to remind folks that our footprint includes the most competitive marketplace in the country, which is New York City. So any rates we have in New York City also apply to Unionvale. They are the same, they are uniform, they do not differ between New York, Brooklyn, and Unionvale. So with that, we'll sort of pivot to network performance. So last year, as we all know, the pandemic, there's a lot of customer habits that changed, mainly on broadband usage. Prior to the pandemic, our subscribers typically used our network in 2 times a day, right? There was what we call peak periods, which was morning and evening hours. Now peak is no longer, there is no real peak. It's consistent with remote learning and working from home. We've seen data usage rise 73% in 2 months. When the pandemic was started, the usage rose 73%, which mainly caused localized and intermittent slow speeds to the network. So we did a lot of things to sort of shore up our existing network, which meant split nodes and add upstream, downstream channels, different things we could do to add capacity. The pandemic also impacted Optimum, right? So we weren't able to escape sort of the wrath of it in our employees in the field and our customer service centers. We had to close customer service centers. We had to pivot to have those customer care workers work from home and try to set up in-home terminals. We had to look for offshore and other options for, in the meantime, handling calls. And then last summer, as you might remember, we had Tropical Storm Isaias, which compounded everything and really was not a great experience for anyone, especially our customers, because we had extremely long hold times, repeat customer visits where the text came to the home. So there was a lot of that happening, which again was not enjoyable for us, but we took a lot of lessons learned from that. So now we'll talk about sort of where we're going now. So now we see customer service trends improving. In Unionvale, we have 25 total complaints from January to June of this year, and none remain open at this time. This was as of earlier this week, so there could have been some logged since that time. Altice also, we have a process in which when calls come in, we research, we work to resolve each one, obviously, and we really use it as a training tool. So we record calls, and there is a process to ones that are on the phone, customers that are on the phone for a long period of time, we take those back and we sort of use them as a training tool. Just want to make that clear that we do exercise that pretty often with our customer care group. Call hold times are also trending down. I realize it's not where we want it to be, right? It's still an issue, but we do see the trending downward in terms of how long folks are on hold. And we also added quite a few tools to try and defer folks to a different avenue if they're more tech savvy, such as our .NET site, Optimum.net. There's a chat box. We have Twitter you can route, Facebook. We have support links there where you can go and reach our care team outside of the typical voice call. And now just to talk about network performance. Right now we're focusing on improving the quality of repair and reducing the need for repeat visits by our techs. So that, the focus is on timely arrival as well. So appointments year to date, we have been on time for almost 90% of all of our appointments year to date in Unionvale. And then also, internet usage is also, and that's also part of the reason that is the trending of the internet usage is going down, right? So folks are slowly starting to use a little bit less. It's still at a very high level, but not nearly as what we saw early on in the pandemic. And Ed Russo, who's joined me on, as I mentioned earlier, his team, he came aboard and came from a different area of the company in the beginning of the year, and he oversees now area, including Unionvale, as I mentioned. And I just will say that since he's come aboard, him and his team have really been phenomenal. We have a great working relationship. So because I hear a lot from municipalities when there's issues, and then Ed and I work together to resolve them when customers or municipalities have questions. So Ed and I will work together to address any questions that come up today too, in this forum. Now, just to make one more comment on which you may have heard, but back to Isaias, but also resonates with other areas of the company. So the Public Service Commission had investigated not only us, but all utilities, Verizon and power companies after Isaias because of our response. So there was an investigation for quite a few months. And then in around March, April timeframe, we have an agreement which really has several commitments we're committing to, right? To improve customer service, improve our storm response time, but it resonates in other areas as well. And that value of the monetary value of that agreement is in the neighborhood of 72 million. So it's not insignificant. And we are, again, some of those finer points are improving network resiliency, improve customer outage notifications, including starting to give customers estimated times of repair, and also increased hiring, increased customer service tools and hiring customer service personnel. So that's something we are certainly we committed to, and we will follow through on. There's, it's a year or plus timeline on that. So it's not a tomorrow thing, but it is something we have to give reports to the PSC and have to, make sure and demonstrate that we're making progress. And lastly, I just wanted to mention, as we move forward, we have a fiber to the home build out. And what we're doing here is sort of future proofing our network. So what that means, it's a multi-year project we've begun. We don't have a lot of customers on the network today, but it is, right now we have some customers on Long Island and beginning in Westchester, and we're building out from there. And really what that means is right now our backbone of our network is fiber. But when you get to the neighborhood and home level, it's HFC, is sort of different technology. And what we're doing now is that fiber run is going to go all the way through from the backbone to the neighborhood to the customer's home. And that will deliver up to 10 gigs to every single home in our footprint. And with that, with that new upgraded network also comes more reliability. There's less repeaters, less sort of equipment to go faulty on as a part of the network. And it's more redundant because we have a ring type topology of the network. So if one side fails, there's a cut, it reroutes. We have that somewhat today, but it's really but a main sort of a real development point of the new network to ensure it's everywhere. We did the build out now. I tried to get a sense of when we're coming to Unionvale. I don't have that yet. And the reason being is because we were delayed all of last year, the build out because of COVID. And there's been significant state delays in state permitting. We've had issues with the state of New York and trying to get payments and permits to the state and work out a path. They have a new policy and it's slowed us down quite a bit. But I'm going to continue to work with our teams. And as soon as I have a definitive timeline, because we will have to come and seek road opening permits in the town, and obviously work with you on where the equipment will sit and make sure we have a coordinated effort on that front. But it is exciting because we are investing up to over $1 billion in this network, not just in the Optimum footprint, but also out west and Suddenlink as well. So I'll pause there, and I think that's sort of the overview for now, and we can open it up for questions, or if the board has questions, I'm happy to address.
Well, let me start because I've got some in writing in front of me that were submitted, and then let's see if the board has any questions, and then there's a chat feature at the bottom that people can use, and also people can raise their hand. But as far as these first, I know that last year during COVID, one of the issues everybody had was that you were sending calls, all of a sudden it seemed to people, and you can correct me wherever I'm wrong, that you were sending calls to India. And I remember when you and I first met and were trying to talk through all the problems, you had a call center pretty much wiped out, as in, not literally, but everybody had to go home because of COVID. So you rerouted your calls. And of course, some people, the wait times were late. You brought those back into the United States, or are you still using the call center in India? And what kind of wait times are we looking at?
So it is a hybrid still today. So we do have a call center overseas. I think from what I understand, there is still the India call center and also in the Dominican Republic. But we have been building up our call center, which is big in the Bronx, and we have one in Texas as well. So it's sort of a hybrid mix between in the States and outside the States. And I don't know if that's going to be sort of the map going forward. I haven't heard that we're going to tailor back on the offshore sort of call centers, but that's what the mix is today.
Do you track the call wait times for Unionvale or for everybody?
We do. I was told that in Unionvale that the call wait time is on average, and I'll only just define call wait time because that's something where we define call wait time as when the phone is picked up. And customer, being a customer myself, call wait time is, from a customer's perspective, I think is a bit different, where it means when a live person picks up and starts addressing your issue. So when I say, because I know the average wait time was somewhere around, they said 2.5 minutes, but then again, I realize that that's what I'm just trying to relay here. That does not mean that they're speaking to a live agent. That means the phone has been picked up and it has been answered. So there's a distinction there. So I can find out.
How long was the music playing before you got to that person?
Well, that's what I have to. I don't know the answer to that, but I can find out. I don't know the answer of how.
Okay, that leads to the next
2.5
question.
minutes is when the music is playing. Essentially, it's not when it's.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So, is there an optimal time to call the call center if you had not an emergency, or because I know somebody that called in the evening, and it wasn't closed, you weren't closed, but somebody called in the evening and they were not picked up after 35 minutes of music, but that's evening. So maybe you could tell us if you have an issue, maybe there are better times to call.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, there's during the day other than lunch is used to be like, I would say morning, mid-morning and early afternoon call volume peak. That is not the peak time in terms of call volume. So that's when it's more free to log complaints or call in. And I can also share with you, Supervisor, the different channels I mentioned on our optum.net site. If someone who's more tech savvy can go to Twitter, to Facebook, and they can get a live agent without the need to call us. So there's other tools that we have aside from just calling, which you'll be addressed more quickly. There are times when you will speak to someone and they will then transfer the call to another agent, in terms of a voice call. Sometimes if you're in the chat box and it gets overly complicated in terms of they need to schedule a technician and that sort of thing, they will schedule, a call back for you, but that's not in every case.
Okay, I'm going to try to go through these. Are you familiar with the Fountains, which is an assisted living facility in Unionville?
No.
Okay, so we'll talk about that offline. I'm just wondering what kind of service they have because they have a lot of issues. Would Optimum consider, unless they have one already and we're not aware, would you consider offering senior rates to people on fixed incomes over a certain age that have a little bit of trouble affording the expensive monthly payment?
We do not do that. And the reason being is we used to have a senior discount. We've gone away from that because we have a wide range of offers, right? Where they go down, we have a low income offer. We also have, there was recently the state came down with a mandate and also something we're participating in, which is a broadband offer. This is just broadband I'm speaking about, but that's $15 a month for 30 megabits of broadband. So that's something we offer folks. But if people are having economic hardships, they can call in and they can ask for it. So what's the best plan for me? And our care reps will sort of tailor back. It's not supposed to be used as a upsell opportunity. It's supposed to be used to kind of work with them. And if they need a payment arrangement, we should also be working that out.
Okay, some of these questions are repetitive, but it seems that a lot of people feel like their rates go up every couple of months. Could you address that?
Sure.
If that's possible, or what that might mean?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak in general terms that, our rates go up based on a few things. So one in which the biggest driver is programmers. So when we have content, let's say ESPN sports programming, right? And that sports programming is not specific to ESPN any longer. It's on a lot of channels. And so what happens is, even though the eyeballs on the video side of our television are going down, the programmers, when we have agreements with them, their cost keeps rising. So there's a break in the sort of the formula here, and we've asked the FCC to intervene, not just us, but Comcast. All the major players have asked them to, the FCC being them, to come in and try to work something out, because their costs rise. And not only that, but if they, for example, say MTV, you have to renew your contract with MTV. They will not, if we say we want the flagship MTV only, because we all know there's obscene amount of channels, the cost will be much higher than if you take MTV plus 10 other channels, because they want to see what sticks, if there's another channel that will, really resonate with customers or the folks that are watching. So that's the biggest driver on the video side. The broadband side, I think what we try to do is remain competitive. So because as I said, in New York City, the marketplace, if Verizon is raising rates or they have some issue, we follow trend, right? So we follow what they do. They follow what Optimum does as well. So if broadband increases, it's normally because there's some sort of equipment that's now being charged for that wasn't in the past. There's things like that, but we are supposed to notify the customers in their bill of when rates increase. So you should always look at your bill to see what's sort of coming down the pipe. And if there's any questions, customer service should be able to address all of those as well.
So it is possible that rates could go up in every 2 months, or not, maybe not every, but within a 2 months time period?
I think the other issue is a lot of folks are on promotions. So promotions tend to expire at different times depending on when you signed on, and we don't notify you when the promotion is ending. So when your promotion is up, we notify you in the beginning when you sign up for the promotion. But if your promotion is rolling off, your rates will look obviously much higher once the roll off happens. But you can always call in and sort of request another promotion. But that's a lot of times I see people that, when they come to me and we talk to our customer care group, it's because a promotion has then ended, and we have numerous promotions sort of floating out there.
Okay, after last August's catastrophic service failure, and you have addressed some of this, but do you feel that the infrastructure changes that you've made will ensure that this doesn't happen again? Or that you're in the process of making? Can you just give some people a level of comfort about that, if it's possible?
Yes, yes. And I think that goes back to the settlement agreement I mentioned with the PSC. So we've already been making improvements to the network since that time. If we're talking about resiliency and making sure the network's capable of handling some sort of severe storm, we have been ordering more generators, been taking a lot greater coordination with electric utilities, because obviously we rely heavily on their network to power ours. But we're also taking steps to ensure, and really our biggest thing is communication and coordination with those folks. And as I mentioned with the PSC settlement, we're also looking to be more transparent with our customers in terms of trying to give ETR time so customers know, because historically what we've done is said, when power comes on, then call us, which, to us makes sense because our network won't work without power unless we deploy generators, but that frustrates customers, obviously. And we've been working closely with power utility companies to try and really nail down, can we give folks, they've been a big part in us trying to develop ETRs, in our network to give our customers. So we have a lot of efforts towards that are ongoing and will continue to happen.
Okay, all right. Now, well, it's the same. A lot of these are the same. Trying to get a person on the phone to discuss anything, including plans, is quite difficult. It's impossible. But I think maybe following your multiple paths, like optimum.net, or following maybe those timeframes might help. But I find that would be the best thing that you guys could solve. If people aren't satisfied, do you have a complaint box? Do you have a place where they can say, I waited 35 minutes at 8:30 or something like that?
Yes, they can. If you send me, if there's issues that are happening where they're just not getting any resolution, they can send you the complaint, or the town office, your office, whatever's appropriate, and
Like
then you
we've
can
been
filter
doing?
them.
Yeah.
You can filter them to me, and I can certainly escalate them right away. And we have a corporate escalations team that I will send them to, and they'll proactively call the customer back. So there are pieces of information we need. So if customers are experiencing frustration, they're just not getting anywhere, that would be great if you would email your name, your address, your contact number, and a very brief description of the issue. And then when it comes to me, I give it to our corporate care team, and they'll reach out.
So everybody knows that's what we've been doing since the storm. So after we finally got connected, you and I, and that really helped a lot as far as that expedited team that you set up. So, all right. So if they really get frustrated and nothing else is working. All right, let's see. Here's a few more. Do you have the lines in Unionvale regularly inspected visually and checked remotely?
Yeah, I don't know if Ed is on. I can see him. I know we do have a network operations center, which we review remotely all 24/7. We see our network from that area. And we have thresholds built up. So if something fails, we see it. We see every single customer's modem as well. So if it goes offline, we know it. And we also, as I said, if there's a break in the network, we typically know, the knock in our network technology will indicate that. We don't need to deploy someone, to sort of find those things out any longer. And I don't know, Ed, if you have anything to add on that front.
Yeah, you're correct. We have several soft tools to monitor our network, 24/7. And to John's point, if we see any break in the network whatsoever, we get that live time. As far as visual of the network, we have outside plant technicians that are at work around the clock, who are out there, 24/7. So they visually look at the network, and along with all the techs that we have out there that are constantly working the plant. So we do visually check our network daily.
So does that mean if a line is cut or a line is broken by a storm or a tree falling or a truck, that you guys should be able to identify where that line is?
Yes, we do, but not, 9 out of 10 times, it's usually the customers see that, it's in front of their home or something, or local police departments call us for that. If we happen to be down that street and the line is down, absolutely, we see it and we jump on the repair. But most of our lines that come down are called into our call centers, and local municipalities who call in for that, and then we do the repair.
Do you want a contact for them?
I have no contact.
I think it would be helpful, John, if you had a foreman or maybe somebody that works for Ed, if we could get that contact information so that our highway superintendent, Ed Kading, who's sitting behind me, can have that number and contact a foreman, and maybe we can speed up the process a little bit. As opposed to waiting for a homeowner to try to get through on the lines if they can't, or, the municipality calling you, we might not know for a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. We can, we can work with John, email John or myself, and we will get that handled immediately.
Okay, I'll get that from you for Ed Kading. All righty. I don't know, what is the current schedule for line maintenance in Unionvale? Do you do regular line maintenance? Do you walk, like we were talking about how some of the lines are a little bit low and dangerous? And it would be nice, like Central Hudson, they go through and they check all their lines at certain months, non-storm related months. Do you all do that, or do you plan to do that?
Well, yeah, we like I said, we're out there, looking at the lines constantly. A lot of lines are probably, the lower ones beneath us are telephone. So we kind of run in between power and phone. So a lot of times when people call in, they think it's our lines, and they're the lower ones, which would be either Verizon or the local phone companies out there. But like I said, on a daily basis, our crews are out there all the time. So if they identify a low line, absolutely fix that, because that becomes an issue. If we don't fix it when we see it, it could come down and that will lose service to customers. So we're very proactive with any low lines or dangerous hanging lines out there.
I appreciate that. I don't think you quite answered the question though. Do you have a routine maintenance or line inspection in the town of Unionvale? Or do you just get phone calls and drive around, and as the guys are driving around, they notice things and take care of it?
Yeah, not a scheduled, line maintenance where we actually roll out to look at lines. No, that we don't have.
So if we sent you a list of lines that looked problematic to us, would you spend a half a day or a day coming over and going through them with our highway superintendent?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just to make another point on that, there are some towns, and we also have seen double wood, right, which is double poles. I don't know how prevalent this is in Unionvale, but in a lot of communities, they'll see, they wonder who's next to go, essentially, who's going to move their facilities. But there is a shared website called Engines, which is shared between the power company, the phone company, and ourselves. And if there's locations where you do have this, you can send them to me or Ed, and we'll take a look, and we can look at the site and then tell you if it's not us. We'll tell you if it is us, and if it's not us, sort of who's the next responsible party to move it. And then, we can work towards removing that second pole. So I'm not sure if that's an issue, but it comes up quite a bit with other municipalities.
Okay, great. I think you're going to probably be hearing from Ed Kading and myself, maybe a lot more frequently on Ed's side. So, and this next question is interesting because it kind of reminds me of other ways that Unionvale, sometimes we're way over in the east and people don't pay attention. How does the line maintenance in Unionvale compare with that of other portions of Altice's service territory, and to line maintenance guidelines of the industry? So compare Unionvale to the other areas of your other service areas, or within the service area.
So
arbitrary, or
so we don't look at individual areas on a whole. I'm responsible for all of Hudson Valley and Connecticut. So our crews are dispatched, and we pretty much work the same in all areas. We don't pinpoint certain areas for line maintenance. Basically, like I said, our soft tools gives us a heads up on where we have areas of problems, and that's where we dispatch our crews.
okay. Are you guys planning on adding I don't know, I'm not that your head count would matter, but are you adding more tech support agents during the outages? Do you have the ability to add people when?
Yes, we do. On top of a regular workforce that we are, constantly, backfilling as we lose employees just through, we lost a lot over the COVID and stuff. We have a flex force of vendors. Okay, so they're third-party vendors that work for us. They work our plant, they work our construction, and they work for us in field service, which are the installs. So that flex force that we have, when we need them to bring in more, say during storms or peak seasons like the summertime, what we're going through now, we increase headcount with vendors. And when we don't need them in the winter months, and if there's not any storms, then we lower that headcount. So we're constantly fluctuating with our headcount and increasing and decreasing with the needs of the business.
You never actually, John, could you tell us what's the fiber optic lines in Unionvale? Do you know about when we're going to be? I know you said it's coming and you're starting in Westchester, but is there a timeline that you might be able to say? Is that 5 years or 2 years? Or
if I were guessing now at this point, but I would say 2 years. I would say not 5. I would say more on the 2-year timeline. And again, the company is trying to expedite this as quickly as possible. And obviously our goal is to give it to everyone as soon as we can. So we expect to ramp up because we have lessons learned as we go through this multi-year project. We have lessons learned as we build and sort of figure out how to streamline, operationally, how to make it go quicker and all that good things. So, I can continue to check with our folks. I have a working group call with Ed and the other operational team on the fiber to the home project. I'm well entrenched in that. So when I have a more precise timeline, I'll let you know.
Great. Thank you, John. All right. Those are, I think I've covered all the written questions because some of them were duplicates. Do any of the board members have specific questions that you want to ask? Okay. So we open it up to those that are sitting at home or residents. Does anybody have any questions that you'd like to raise your hand and get called on for? So will you help? Do you want to ask a question? Alfreda, can you? Yes. It's the only way that he'll hear you.
I can yell.
You can yell.
Who owns the poles?
Did you hear that, John?
I did. Yeah. We do not own the poles. So that's typically either, and Ed can correct me if I'm wrong, but the power utility company owns the poles. And in some cases it's the telecom. I have some Verizon in the area, or whoever may be the telco carrier. We rent space on the poles. So we are a renter of the poles.
Do you still pay a fee, or whatever you want to call it, to Unionvale for being allowed to service us?
Couldn't quite hear that. We pay a fee for what? I'm sorry.
Yes. Yes, they do pay a franchise fee.
Franchise fee.
Yes. Yes. Our contract is up this year. It's going down. Is that why it's?
Yeah, I agree.
As John explained in the earlier part of his presentation, that the franchise fee is going down because of some of the things that people are streaming instead of using their services and other things, right, John?
That's right, because the agreement is a video agreement, it's a video franchise agreement. So we pay on video subscribers. And as you said, subscribers are moving to over the top streaming, more broadband usage. And at this time, broadband is an unregulated service. So it is prohibitive to pay on that.
So we have a chat question that says, can anyone get service? Is that what that question is?
Yes.
Okay.
Can anyone in Unionvale get, are you familiar? And thank you for being here, John,
Sure.
and answering our questions. Can anyone in Unionvale get optimum service?
So yes, it does include the entire territory of the town. So there are cases, as we get further north in the state where folks may be far from the pole line. And in those cases, we have, there's a customer contribution that has to take place. Now that is not on this pole at the street level. It's once it goes onto private property, and if it's extended far beyond the street level, the customer has to have a contribution to go, and it is defined in the franchise. It's typically, I think, 150 feet or something along those lines from the pole line we pick up. But if it's beyond that, there's a contribution from the customer. But we can, if there's anyone who has asked for service or is looking for service and has questions, I can certainly help, get in touch with our design team and our new sales team and figure out a solution there.
Well, one of the reasons I asked this is I was a very vocal opponent of Optimum LPs, and to be honest with you, I still am. You've answered many questions on a technical level. I heard nothing about customer service. And I'm hoping that all these improvements on the technical level will mean that you can get rid of the horrible customer service. I can tell you that the reason I asked you that question was that when I moved up here in 2013 and called Optimum for service, I was told I was not eligible. And I wasn't given any explanation whatsoever. I was told I had to use a satellite company. So I used a satellite company for many years. Horrible, as you can imagine. I mean, it was bad, very bad. Well, one day in a snowstorm in 2019, I met my neighbor who owns a very large property next to mine and said, "Why did you have to go to the library to use internet?" And I said, "Because I have satellite. Optimum won't come up here." And, you know, he said, "That's a bunch of bull. You need to get on the phone and you need to fight for it." So that was my first dealing with Optimum, which I would call, you know, opaque, not transparent whatsoever. There was nothing explained to me whatsoever. So when I finally had to fight for it, there was pole licensing involved.
Right.
I can tell you that that was the next step in my horrendous dealings with Optimum. Central Hudson was very forthcoming. Every time I called them, they knew exactly what needed to be done and what step in the process. Optimum, on the other hand, I was given supervisors who I couldn't get in touch with because they had left the company. Now, this is going back a little bit, but again, I've heard a lot of technical improvements from you. My problem is entirely with your customer service and how you deal with problems here. I'm going to keep going because you cannot imagine what we went through up here from east to east. My driveway is a 1/4 mile long. The road to my driveway is a mile long. And with all due respect, I have seen Central Hudson on my very private road numerous times to cut trees. I have never, ever seen Optimum come up here. We're a road, we pay for your service. I've never seen anybody come up here, never. You guys promised that we would get a refund and we would have to do nothing for it. Nothing, it would be automatic. 11 days without internet, you get a refund. That didn't happen at all. Called to inquire about it, was told we were entitled to $1. This is just problematic. I complained to the FCC. I complained to everybody I could. And you know, they put me right back in touch with your people in Long Island who I was complaining about because your corporate people did nothing. I'm telling you, I had went in circles, complete circles. When we finally did get someone to come up, which was weeks after the pole was ready to go, to put the line to our house, he tied it so low that I couldn't get a tree cutting truck up here without hitting it. They had to repair it. So I'm sorry for everybody else having to listen, but yeah, I have never dealt with a company with such poor customer service ever. And I've been around, I've dealt with a lot. And the topper, which I find hysterical, is when all this came about with East East and the utility companies were taken to task, and you watch the local channel, the Optimum Maltese channel, you guys didn't call yourselves to task. You called everybody else, but not once did you say how many complaints there have been against you. I can tell you, John, if there was another option, I think many people in this town would switch. Unfortunately, we can't. We all feel stuck. I'm going to speak for myself. I feel stuck. When East happened, every time I called, I don't know if you're aware of this, but every time I called to find out when am I getting my service, apparently I got bumped back down to the bottom because it went as a new ticket. Okay, that was explained to me after 8 days, which is ridiculous. The line that was down is on the road a mile from my house. When I was asked, can you see the line on the tree from your house? I said, no, I see it on the road to my house. Oh, well, that's different. I said, that line connects to exactly 3 houses up here. I mean, this is the ridiculousness. They had to have someone come out to confirm that it wasn't connected to my house. And then they had to have another crew come out to go fix the line. That's all I got. Thank you for listening.
So, John, sounds like she's bumped into almost every single problem that you guys may have had. But I particularly, if you could address that refund issue, because I know that I too was told that people would get refunds for the number of days they were out, and having not had complaints and nobody sent me emails or called me, I thought that was well done. I thought that happened. Do you know anything about that, John?
I do, yeah. So we did refund majority of customers. I think we, obviously the goal was to get everyone, but because we use software tools to do that, there were some people that, inadvertently were left off, and we made the claim that would be automatic. We did also say, if you don't receive it, please call us and we'll make sure we correct it. Now, $1 obviously does not make sense to me. And I have been, and personally been engaged with different municipalities that this has happened with customers. And then I again get them in touch with the care team. Now that's not the solution we want, but it's the one we have where I can have them look and make sure you get the appropriate credit. And they'll do that. We can do that soon.
May I say one more thing? Am I still?
Yes, go ahead.
So I know there was a question about, is there some kind of grid that you guys are able to see and that is checked so that you know when somebody is offline? I have to tell you, am I wrong? Did I get that wrong? Or was there?
No, you're right. We do. Yeah, we have software tools. Yeah.
I was told when I called every time last year, and I said to them, in this day and age, you guys can't figure out what line is down. And they said, we show there's no lines down in your area. And I heard that about 3 times. That, yeah, we show that you're fine. We show that you have service. You try to convince them that I don't have service. Yeah, I was in the twilight zone there like everybody else. Wow. So that apparently, no one's come to check the lines. No one has come to pretty much do anything. I haven't seen a truck up here since you guys hung the thing too low.
So if I can I ask, is the line still low today? Is the line something that's a problem as we speak?
No, because the people that came to cut my trees couldn't get under unless they tied it up themselves.
Right. Okay.
I said, do I have to call Optimum? And they said, look, you want the job done, we'll do it. And they did it.
Yep. And just to add one more comment is, I've been with the company for 11 years. So and on my role now, I'm sort of new in terms of the last 3 years being in this role, more external. But I can say that from Isaias, we were taken to task by the Public Service Commission, right? And we did, our CEO was under testimony. I was as well. A lot of people were, and we did make a lot of, we admitted to a lot of fault, right? And we recognize that customer service was at the top of the list and it needs to be improved. And I think the settlement that we had with the PSC that I mentioned earlier has a lot of that 72 million is improving in customer service, because we realize that, it's one thing to address a bill, but if it's outside of the box, like you're saying, something that they have to get more technical folks involved, it wasn't that sort of triage and figuring out what happened doesn't happen today. So we have to get smarter and better in that front.
Well, thank you for that. And I guess the proof is in, I hope we don't have to go through this again, but I'll take your word for it. Thank you again.
Your comments are very helpful. I'm wondering, would you do me a favor? Send me your address and all your information so I can forward it to them and they can get that refund back to you.
Yes.
Surprised you don't remember my name, Betsy.
Well, it's, why?
Okay.
You see your ID here?
Yes, I do see. Cheryl Mercar.
Oh, Cheryl.
I will do that.
I've been looking for you. Okay. I should have recognized your voice. Yes, please send me that. I actually know, never mind, I have that information. I'll get that to John tomorrow, Cheryl. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
terrible. I know you live pretty far up there, so yeah, they should be able to fix that for you. All right, thank you, Cheryl. What other
Thank you.
questions do we have?
That lady in the back.
Oh, hi. Do you want to come up?
You want me to sit in the chair?
If you sit in the chair and you push the space bar down, you can speak to John directly.
Okay. I'm gonna your speaker on this, so you can just mute your mic. I'm okay? Yep. Can you hear me, John?
Yes, yep, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
If I, when I did that though, then he couldn't hear me before. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. I have to agree with, what's her name, Cheryl? Totally. Customer service is absolutely atrocious. Every time I call, I get a different answer. And I feel that a lot of the customer service people just tell you anything they can to get you off the phone. And last year in September and October, when I was one of the people working from home, I was working on spreadsheets and all of a sudden my service went, okay? So I would call Optimum and they'd say, oh yeah, there's an outage in your area. Sometimes those outages lasted an hour and a half, okay? And so they said, yes, you'll get credit for that every time you have an outage because it was repeatedly happening in September and October and it was happening at least 2 to 3 times a week. And I would say probably at least 7 or 8 times during the month, okay? And so when I called back, they said, oh yes, it's manually, or I should say it's the software keeps track of all the times that you're losing service and you will get a refund for that. So then when my bill came, there's no refund, nothing's happening. I call back, oh, you have to be out of service for more than 24 hours. So the stuff that your customer service people tell the customers, they don't have a clue. And let me tell you, if I had a choice, I wouldn't have Optimum for anything because the service is terrible. And the thing that keeps a company together is when people call and you get good customer service, and you guys lack in that. And every time I got a survey after I talked to somebody in customer service, I let you guys have it because it was terrible. I work in a big company, and let me tell you, if I ever talked to customers and gave them the spiels that your customer service did, the Department of Insurance would be all over me. I am totally with that other woman. I would love to have somebody other than Optimum.
Well, I'm sorry that that's the situation. You have to live through that. And I understand how it goes with customer service. And I think, can you hear me? No.
On, yeah, all the way up. Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, I sincerely apologize for all the times and trials and tribulations of dealing with customer service. That's something, as I just mentioned a while ago, we're taking a lot of onus of and trying to improve. And that's a lot of the monies that we're allocating towards that settlement are going to customer service because for just that reason. And I completely agree with you that I hear enough stories that there's inconsistent information given. And I think that's been relayed enough to our senior management, especially after Isaias. As I said, that compounded a lot of the weaknesses we had and was sort of exposed. So, you know, we have a real effort to improve that. And again, I just apologize for everything. If you have any recent outages or any outages that you have a history of that you want to email me, I can certainly have someone proactively reach out to you and, you know, explain what happened and give you an appropriate credit, which won't be, you know, it will be something that is satisfactory.
Okay. The thing that's most frustrating is every time I've called, even in these early part of 2021 on different issues, because like I said, they mentioned about the bills going up every 2 months and stuff like that. And that's definitely an issue. You know, and then I call customer service and all I do is get the runaround. And like I said, I can't reiterate it enough to say that either you guys have to get customer service, protocols to get these people educated to how to talk back to the customer. Because at the end of the day, like I said, they just tell you, they patronize you. They tell you anything just to get you off the phone. And then when you call back, oh, there's no notes on your account. No, I don't know why you were told that. And can I talk to a supervisor? Oh, there's no supervisor here. Oh, okay, supervisor will call you back within 36 hours. Never happens. I just have a long laundry list. And when I got the email to say that you were going to be talking at the town board meeting, I wanted to make sure I was here because, my husband works for a utility too. And let me tell you, you're under strict guidance, especially with all these storms. But you know what? You really have to pay attention to your customers because I feel like you guys have the monopoly and it's like you got us right where you want us and we have no other choice.
Well, I thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come and share this with me. Yeah,
John, do you mind starting over? Sorry.
sure. I just want to say I thank you for taking time out of your life and your schedule to come and share those stories with me. And I think again, the solution now, which isn't a great one until we get to where customer service is, actually doing all the things it should be, like you pointed out, is emailing, getting any complaints you have that are historical or otherwise to the supervisor's office, and I will ensure they're taken care of, and we'll have customer service reach out to you directly. And this is a team that is, they're very thorough, they're very good, and you won't have that experience. And that's unfortunately the way we'll have to do it until we get our customer service up to par.
Well, all I can say is it remains to be seen, so you have a lot to prove.
So John, you're coming back this time next year and we're going to give you a report card, okay?
Okay, yeah.
So John, the other question I got was, you took away these, like you have one service center in Wappinger, I think. There was one in Dover and it was taken away. Are there any plans to have a more local presence where people can get boxes or move things around or just go get help if they need to?
No, I don't believe that there's plans to open up a new site. I can just validate with that with our teams and make sure that we don't have any future plans that I'm not aware of. But let me get back to you on that just to make sure. I'm not
That was a
misspeaking.
source of disappointment for many. Mr. Dunning, can you unmute? There you are.
Okay, how am I doing? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, can I jump on the service bandwagon? And I'm going to share something with you, John, with the hope that maybe it can be improved. I had an issue, got through to tech support and got a completely unacceptable answer and became somewhat irate and said, can I speak with the supervisor because the answer you're giving me makes no sense. And I think I heard this from someone else who said, I can't put you through to a supervisor. We'll have to have a supervisor call you back within 24 to 72 hours. My reaction as a consumer is that's frustrating as hell. I mean, if you've got supervisors who are available and you've got somebody who's quite irate because your technical service people are unable to give an intelligent answer, it would seem to me that at that point, your tech support might say, you know what, I'll connect you with my supervisor. Now, it turns out in this particular case, I was calling because I couldn't get a program. And the reason why is because you weren't broadcasting the program. And the reason why you weren't broadcasting the program is because it was a basketball game taking place in a city that had riots and had closed down and canceled all sporting events. And if the technical service person had simply checked your signal, he would have been able to say, Mr. Dunning, there is no signal. But instead, he told me a whole bunch of things. And of course, then I got upset. So my point here is you might want to consider being able to escalate calls when your first line tech support people are unable to provide a reasonable answer.
Yep.
We'll just say, well, again, thank you for sharing that. And I, wholeheartedly agree that should be the way it operates. And I just to sort of reiterate, I see my role, and part of my role is when I go out into the community and I talk to municipalities and I get feedback direct from customers. I have direct channels to senior executives, and I do share all of these sort of takeaways and looked at them as action items to say, here's what we're hearing from the people that actually use our services. So I plan to continue to do that, and I'll add your recommendation to that list. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Alana, hi there. Would you like to share your question or comment?
I would. Hi. I'm on Canby Road, which is a pretty busy road. And I have kids home, which means that this past winter, where they were learning from home, or learning remotely, things were often dropped with Optimum. But my main concern right now is that there are wires that are so low that they could probably be used as a zip line at the house next door to ours. So I called Optimum, and somebody came out and told me that they were phone wires and that there was Frontier. And I explained that Frontier wasn't in business around here, and they insisted it was. So I called Frontier. He said, no, you really have to call your own phone company. And I called my phone company, and the phone company came out and said, no, that's cable wires. So we went back to cable, and somebody else came out from Optimum a few days later and said that, yes, those in fact are Optimum wires, but that somebody else has to come out to write up a report. They can't do it. So then this other person came out, and meanwhile, nobody's able to tell me what the limit is about how low wires can be to the ground before they're dangerous. I've heard 15 feet, I've heard 12 feet, I've heard 10 feet. It seems kind of arbitrary. And then I've also heard that it really matters how close they can be to the electrical wires above it if they're sharing a pole with Central Hudson. And I've heard that can be anywhere from 12 feet to 3 feet. So I don't know if you can clarify any of that, but right now we're still waiting to find out if they can put in another pole which would correct the situation. I don't know if it's Optimum at this point, or if I have to now kind of talk about that with Central Hudson, but it is a part-time job trying to get these wires high enough off the ground so that nobody gets killed.
So
I would like to think that that's kind of a liability for Optimum, and that you might want to prioritize that. Am I wrong?
No, so first of all, what we'll do is you'll get your information, you'll get it into John, and I'll get one of my construction crews out there to absolutely look at that. As far as the height of the lines, you're actually right on a couple of those points. We have to maintain space between the power, if there's power on that pole, and the phone company. So it all really dictates to the height of the power, because if they own the poles, we kind of run right underneath them and in between the two. On average, it's about 15 feet is usually what our lines run, but of course there are times where, we do have extended poles, like you're saying, and the sag between the two poles, will cause our lines to be a little bit lower. As far as getting a pole in there, like John said earlier, we don't own the poles. We rent space off of them. So it would be, whether it's Hudson Valley or it's one of the phone companies that own those poles that are there, they'd have to put the additional pole in there, then we'd attach to it. But get me your information, and I'll work with John, and I'll get a crew out there as early as tomorrow to look at those lines.
Right.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. All right, hold on. I'm going to switch seats with somebody. Our highway super, Ed Kading, has a question.
Okay, how do we switch it over? This is for Ed. So you were earlier on, you mentioned that your line was between Central Hudson and Verizon. Is that the fact?
Yes, yeah. So we run between the power and the phone company.
Do you
That's
try to do that, or do you do that?
Excuse me?
Do you try to do that, or do you do that?
No, that's where we're placed on the pole. So we get licensed on the
Let
pole.
me give you a little scenario that happened last week. We had a box truck go through on one of our local roads. He hit the wire, pulled it down. That was at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Nobody reestablished that wire. I closed the road until afternoon on the following day. I was told that was your line. It was the low line, not the center line.
Okay, so So when we attach to the pole, where the attachments are, we attach between power and between the phones. So if one of the lines gets pulled down or it sags below the other lines, then we come out there and repair it. But where our attachment is between the power and the phones.
Why was that line down for 18 hours closing my road for 18 hours?
So I actually was on an email, John. I don't know. Is
Yes.
this the email?
This
Okay.
was the email, yeah, exactly, where it was determined to be telephone. It was
Yes. Yeah.
not
I
our
was gonna
wire.
say that. That was a telephone line.
It's South Smith Road, right?
Mhm.
South Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sent that to John after you called me and,
Yeah. All right.
but that was after, the next afternoon.
Yeah.
But you may want.
And just to say, we learned that because when we dispatched our crew and our tech went out there, he spoke to the homeowner nearby, and the lines were already up by the time our tech got there. And they said telephone came and addressed it, and it was a telephone wire.
I totally apologize, but
Sure.
I was told it was your line.
Sure, nope, understood.
Okay.
Well, you're gonna get Ed's,
I need
Number.
your
Yep.
contact for your line crew guy.
Sure.
Okay,
Yep.
that'll
Mhm.
sum up.
thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Aren't you lucky that was a telephone line? We were waiting for you guys for a while. All right, Alana, your hand is still up, but I think your question was, I think you're good. Is that correct? Okay. Are there any other questions? So I guess we can narrow it down to customer service, customer service, customer service. Along with
Yes.
refunds and some line issues. And I think we'll take care of a lot of them by getting Ed direct contact. So I'll be in touch with you on a regular basis. Ed will be in touch with your line foreman, and maybe we will speed up the process. And if you can, Unionvale would like our fiber optic timetable moved up at least 12 months. Okay.
Okay, yeah, okay. See what I can do.
Is there anything else? Anybody else do you have any other questions? Nobody? Okay.
Betsy, when are they gonna move? In some places, new poles were put in.
I have a question. Hold on.
And they're tied to still old poles with wire. When is all that going to be?
Is that theirs? Aren't the polls Central Hudson's? The question is, yeah, I think the question is a poll question, and Mrs. Tillman is asking, when you're going to clean up. There might be a separate poll next to it. I think there is some movement taking place from one pole to another. Are you familiar with any of that, John?
Yeah, that's what I spoke about earlier, that what's termed as the double wood, when there's a new pole going in and a remaining pole, we move our facilities, we don't remove the pole. So if there's any location, you can send me the location. We can check the shared utility website to see who's next to go at that location.
Oh,
And that'll
good.
let you know whether it's us or whoever it may be.
Okay. Between Ed, Katie, and I, we'll be in touch on that one.
Okay.
Excellent. If anybody else, if there aren't any other questions, we're going to let these gentlemen go, and we will definitely be in touch tomorrow to exchange information.
Mhm.
And I would say to everybody to keep the emails coming. I think you tried very hard and did a good job working through that 1.5-inch stack of emails I'd gotten after the storm last year, and I've got to give you credit for that. That's how we finally got you as a contact, and it worked out well. We'd like to continue speeding that up, and if we add the highway super to that mix, I think we can get service here much quicker.
Yep, agreed. I think that's the plan we have. And I thank you for letting us speak tonight, and everyone for showing up to give us your stories. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll be talking. Thank you. Thank you, Edward, for joining us. Good night, John.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Right.
I feel like we need an intermission. Would anybody like to take 3 minutes or go get some water or anything? Want to get some water? Okay, will you guys give us, let's say 2 minutes? 2 minutes? All right, we'll be right back. You get some water too.
Listen, it was,
that frustrating time of work.
yeah, the first thing about it is, like I said, is I feel like people, I understand, they just tell us anything, just the patient,
Just get rid of
drop
it.
the phone, and it's just ridiculous. It's terrible. Oh, I'm telling you.
I think it was Friday, maybe 2:30.
At least when I had last year.
That's really true about the, you know, the local government and when we came to that service. We had to pay out every month. And also, this lady talks about how they give you the money. That
It was also
was
early December.
from the Philippines. But it was the 2 months. They told us that we needed to get.
Yeah, right. This is Thursday. They just tell you.
Yeah, I thought we did measure how many calls.
But even simple things to get to call them. And
I didn't answer my question, but
the
it's somebody
pandemic,
who left it exactly as possible.
even to get their scores.
Yeah.
I tried. So finally, they opened up the doors and they were meeting people outside. I finally got it there. Then you don't have to, 2 months later, they're gonna show up. 2 months later, yeah. Weeks. And how many months was that? Oh, it was awful. And then when I called, because I learned not to trust them, especially customer service. And they say, oh, I don't see any notes on your account. I don't see any. Shut through all. I said, you should come tonight. And then, like I said, the manager calling.
Wow. Well, John, you kind of thought that was going to happen, huh?
Yeah, well, it's good.
It is good. I think they need to hear it. The more they hear it, the better. Oh.
No, I'm not a teacher, no. All right. Yeah, no, I can get it.
Okay. All right. Are all the councilmen in?
The guy was pretty brave to come.
Yeah.
I'll give you
Mrs. Tillman just said that guy was pretty brave to come. So,
He's getting paid well, trust me.
Okay.
Well-
Customer service about $5 an hour.
I think they've got their hands full and their intentions are good. I think he's really, thank you.
Oh, wait, you
Thank
know
you
what?
so much. Thanks a lot. Okay. We will, everybody's back. Everybody's ready. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Thanks
Yeah.
for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for doing it.
All right, now we're on to the rest of our meeting. Next up, Town Supervisor Report. I'm going to go through some financials and I'll go pretty quickly. We had 105% of our budget in cash. I'm talking about cash flow report. We had 105% of our budget, which is always good. And this was the first month we were way over in spending at 120%. But that was only because we paid those big bills for the highway, which, and then we're obviously going to be getting part of that back in our refund from CHIPS, and that isn't reflected anywhere. But I would say, all in all, we've had some good production these months with events and with programming, and we're really pleased about it. And some extra checks out of nowhere that I've mentioned before, like a shared services check. So we're pleased with where we're headed this year. Our cash balances in the general fund, we have $3,835,959. In the highway fund, $976,689 on May 31st. I bet that check hadn't cleared yet, so don't use that number as. Anyway, the big check probably hasn't cleared, but we've got 3.8 and probably half of that in the highway fund for when the check does clear. Now, as far as reporting, our councilmen have all received the cash receipts journal, the building department report, all of our deposit details. We also give them a list of all the abstracts, which are a list of all the bills that are paid every month, so they can see escrow reports. Our production, not our production, sorry, our profit and loss statement, which shows how we're doing versus our budget. And I can say that it's the cash flow is consistent, but also we've had some interesting things happen, like our recycling center is doing well. I think people are still up. And COVID was good for the recycling center because people were using it. They were home more often. Our summer camps for the month of May were up 269% over what we had budgeted, and they're over by 18% for the year. So they had a great month, and the summer camp obviously is doing really well. The pool fees are phenomenal at 940% over budget. And just so everybody knows, we do have a contract with a swimming team that is using the pool and renting it in the mornings and in the evenings after it's closed and before it's open. But in addition to that, they've pushed really hard to explain to residents that they should get a permit. And one of the things you're going to do for families with permits is there's going to be a special pool party just for permit holders. And I believe that is coming up in 2 weeks. So it's actually next week. Pardon? Yeah, it is 25th. Thank you. It's the 25th, and it is a summer get started kickoff summer party for permit holders. But we've had a few areas that are doing extremely well. Our property rentals are up. Our building permits for the month of May was 167% of budget. So things are going along, and we're watching our expenses as we normally do. And the only other part, since we had such a long first part of the meeting, I'm not going to belabor this, but I did want to say that we have been watching very closely. I've been getting emails from the Treasury Department and then the state of New York about the American Rescue Plan funding. And initially, we were told that it would, in that chart they first sent out, Unionvale was going to get 510,000. And I think that's already come down a little bit because the U.S. Treasury is using different census numbers. But for some odd reason, they're not using 2020, the census that just finished. They were using an estimate from 2019, and it showed 4,600 people in Unionvale instead of 4,800. So anyway, basically, it's a very complicated system. They sent some forms out before we can get any money. Now, I was told that this didn't come from the Treasury, but it did. Our money goes to New York State and gets passed to us, and they're not supposed to add anything or do anything. But they sent me 2 forms to sign. And one was I'd have to sign to say that we are absolutely promising that we're going to adhere to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Title VI, as if we wouldn't normally adhere to any federal law. But we have to sign that and things like that. So it's New York is throwing in some extra paperwork, but there are some comments that they've requested, and by July 16th, those comments are over, and we'll know a lot more about that process and about that American Rescue Plan funding. Okay, there's more information to share with you, but we'll go through the whole agenda, and I think that'll probably cover everything. At this point, I'd like to just turn this over to board member reports. I'll start with Councilman Welsh.
All right.
Anything to report?
Yeah, I've been looking around town. I've been looking around town to see if justification exists to change the ruling on the unlicensed motor vehicles. And I see really a need for it. I'm not gonna.
That's on the agenda. We'll talk.
Yeah, specifics, but well, I've been doing a visual check.
Oh, good.
Yeah, on my own.
Oh, good.
Okay. And on a separate note, had a very worthwhile field trip to Peckham Industries, who we buy a lot of material from, and we're going to talk about that later as well, but it was worthwhile.
Great, thank you. No, there's been a lot going on. Okay, Councilman McGivney? Well, since you're knowledgeable about this, let me ask you, a lot of people are thinking that 5G, which is going to be coming here through Verizon, will take more and more business away from the cable company because you'll be able to use it ultimately for the streaming. And when people are getting everything from streaming, they won't be using videos like what Optimum is offering. Do you see that happening? Do you know?
I'm not too familiar with the newer technology, but I don't know if the speed for 5G is capable of what you can get through fiber, through a wire. Typically wired is quicker than wireless, but you lose the further you are away from the router or the transmitter or the receiver, the further you are away, you lose speed. So it depends on how close you are to the transmitter.
Yeah.
And if it's in your area, I mean, I know where my house is for cellular, we're in like a whole shaded area. It's not there. So we have to get it other ways.
Well, it's definitely changing. It'll be interesting to see what happens because, yeah, thank you for that. Councilman Derlin?
No,
I have nothing at this time.
We'll talk to you in just a minute. All right, Councilman Frazier?
No, I have nothing to add.
Okay. All right, thank you, gentlemen. How about our town highway superintendent report by Mr. Katie? Do you want to sit over here or are you good there?
Okay.
Yep, there you go. Go.
So what we've got going on at the highway is we've finished all of our major annual work as far as paving and resurfacing roads. We did the oil and chip seal on the roads that we paved last year. I got a lot of complaints, a lot of comments on that process. People didn't understand what it was all about. Basically, if you have a blacktop driveway, I'm sure periodically you would seal your driveway to preserve it. And that's basically what we did to the new roads that we laid down last year. And we're going to do it again next year to the roads we resurfaced this year. Other than that, what's going on is we're fixing catch basins that are problematic. We're doing pothole repairs. We're 95% done changing out all the old steel pipes in the roads. We're trying to mow the sides of the roads, but right now both of our mow tractors are down, so we're in the process of repairing them. We're trying to get our plow trucks ready to go for next season. And let's see, what else have we got going on? Where are we at with my shop windows? The building was built in the 40s. The windows are from the 40s.
Yeah,
Very inefficient.
right. Well, they can hear, we put that on our list.
Yeah, and capital improvement.
Yeah, under the
Right.
capital improvement list. And I think
Can we go forward?
I think we approved it. I think did we vote on it or did we say, wait and see what happens with the ARP fund? I'll go
I
back
don't
and
recall
tell you.
exactly, but
We definitely discussed it. We put it
Can
on
we
the
put it
top
on our
10.
agenda?
It's on the top 10.
Okay,
I just wanted to go back
it's
and
on
say.
our wish list.
No, no, it's better than a wish list. It was made it to the top 10 and our thought was, I just have to go, did we vote on it that night, which I can't remember, or because we labored over this, or are we waiting for some of that funding to come through?
are we hurting you by delaying an answer tonight?
No,
Okay, because
no, I just
He
don't
wants to be
want
ready
to
for
be
winter.
changing the windows out in
I don't
December.
blame you,
Yeah.
yeah. So we really should get an answer for you.
I think we
pretty
might
soon.
have voted on it. We'll double check. I'm gonna see you tomorrow. I'll let you know then.
Yep.
Okay,
Perfect.
great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, any potholes, road issues, please call me.
Yeah, good. This communication is better. Okay. All right, next up, we have our town clerk's report. No, pass, okay. Board committee reports right now. I believe we have Rachel Peterson on the line. Rachel, are you there? There she is.
Hi, I'm here.
Rachel can turn your video on and unmute. We'd love to hear your report. Hi, Rachel. Wait a minute, unmute.
Oh. I think I am. Can you hear me?
Not yet, wait.
Can you turn the speaker on?
Well, this one's all the way up.
Mine says,
There it is. We heard you now. Great.
okay, hi there.
Hi.
So as some of you know, I serve on the Conservation Advisory Council here in Unionvale. Betsy asked me to come talk about our Food for Thought program that we've been doing, I guess, since 2019 now. So we had a program in 2019 with a local farmer from, what was it, Shady Knoll
Yep.
Orchard, who came and spoke with us. We had a catered event, about 30 people came. It was great. And then that was in the fall of 2019. So as we all know, spring of 2020, things kind of came to a head. We couldn't really do any programming over the summer, but we were able to do a film screening in the fall of 2020. We featured 2 films by a local filmmaker named John Bowermaster. And that was a great event. We had about 30 to 40 people, and we had 2 food trucks, and it was a cold night, but it was a really fun event. So then this spring, we started working on a few more events, and already we've hosted 2 separate lectures. One was up on the lawn at Town Hall, and it was a lecture by a gentleman named Chet Kerr, who was a former corporate lawyer, but now volunteers his time with an organization called the Pollinator Pathways. And the mission of that organization is really to build pollinator gardens throughout municipalities and also in homes of private residents. And the thought is that each pollinator can go from tract to tract and have plenty of native plants to feed on without sort of dead spaces. And that promotes life cycles and reproduction and overall benefits to the ecosystem. So he was great. He's got a lot of really neat projects that they're working on down in Westchester, and spend some time giving us examples of things that the municipalities are doing, building gardens, parks, but also stuff that we can do in our own homes. You know, it's a big topic, but some of the really neat things that I learned was that trees are some of the best pollinators, specifically oak trees. So all of our hummingbirds and bees and other pollinators really thrive off trees, as well as, you know, your typical goldenrod and milkweed. Another interesting tidbit that he gave us was about leaf litter and how important it can be for the pollinators to lay their eggs in this leaf litter. So, you know, this organization really recommends that we don't dispose of our leaf litter, that we sort of let it decompose in our yards, in our woods, so that these pollinators can reproduce. It was a good event. We had about 30 people. We had an ice cream truck. It was a beautiful night. I think everybody really enjoyed that. And Chet he's a charming man. It was really great. And then the second event we did this year was last weekend, and we billed it as a hike for thought. We did not have food trucks, but we invited a gentleman from an organization called the Northeast Trail Conference and the Lower Hudson Valley Prism, which is 2 separate organizations that work together. And PRISM is a statewide, if not Northeastern organization that works on invasive species, which, as many of you know, is a big, big problem. So he came to the park, he came to Timor, and he did come a few days prior to sort of check out the park and see what's going on. He was really impressed with Timor. But we did discuss, so when we went on the hike, he pointed out different invasives. You know, there's many, many invasives that you can list. And unfortunately, they're all throughout the park. But some takeaways, we talked about identifying invasive species, a little bit about how to rid properties of the invasive species, though it can be extremely complicated because most have sort of taken over, and it's hard to get it under control after a certain point. We discussed the hemlock forest that is in Timor, which is a point of discussion because a lot of hemlock forests are being decimated by an insect called the woolly adelgid. However, the hemlocks at Timor are sort of on the brink. They haven't been decimated yet. So there could be an opportunity to treat the trees or to study the trees, maybe working with PRISM in the future on certain projects. Maybe we could be a site location for studies that are going on. And then the other thing we did talk about at length was the ash trees. And as many of you know, they have also been decimated. And in Timor, they're pretty far gone. And I know that the park, that Jake is taking down trees, left and right because of the ash borer. So unfortunately, there's not much we can do about that. We did talk about other invasives throughout the park and where maybe we can work on it and try to sort of slow down the spreading of these invasives. There are some points that we could work on. There's some locations that we could potentially do community events, where we can include people and help, get people involved and actually do some good. Yeah, the other thing I just wanted to say that Brent told us that I didn't know, and a lot of people don't know, is one of the main ways these little pests are moving from area to area is through firewood. So, maybe you have some firewood stacked in your yard and you're going up to the Adirondacks for the weekend and you want to just bring it. That's a huge no-no because those little pests can live in your yard, but the Adirondacks are free of them as of now. But somebody brings in some contaminated wood, and just like that, those hemlock trees or those ash trees, they're invaded by these little pests.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating.
It really is. I mean, it's an endless topic. You could go on, but the events have been really successful and we're really excited. The people who have come have been pleased.
So when's your next event?
So August 12th, I believe.
Okay.
Brand
And if anybody is interested in, that'll be advertised, so they'll get more information. But if anybody's interested in pursuing any of these topics, I know we're going to have a conference call at some point with Jake and the people from PRISM that you're setting up. But aside from that, if anybody is interested, they can go to the CAC site and write an email saying, I'm interested in working on a project, and then you guys will talk to them. Is that right?
Absolutely. And we hope to see your faces throughout the next couple events.
Great. We'll advertise those. So we'll look out for August 13th, Friday night.
Friday night. There you go.
Rachel, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. You guys are doing a great job. They've been interesting.
Thanks, Betsy.
We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Take
All
care.
right, next up, we're going to departmental reports, and if Jake Gosnell, there he is. Jake, if you can unmute yourself and turn your, there he is. Okay.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we sure can.
How's everybody doing? I hope everybody's enjoying the gorgeous weather. So just wanted to touch on a few things. Summer camp starts bright and early, June 28th. That's a week from this coming Monday. Camp at this point is completely sold out. We have rather long waiting lists for every session. So if anybody drops out, next person on the list gets a phone call. And I really, really, really want to compliment the rec department and how well they've handled all the changes that have been ever changing throughout the with all the ever-changing regulations throughout this entire prep season. They've done really exemplary. It's been great.
Yep.
As far as the maintenance side of things, we have the tennis courts fully prepped and power washed and ready for the upcoming refinishing of them. So keep a lookout for that. We've been working on all the prep for summer camp, making sure all the buildings are set and ready to go and everything is set and ready for them. And we've been doing a lot of work on the pool, getting it running, getting it ready for swim season. We're also getting ready to start our seasonal power washing of all the buildings. That'll include all the rec buildings and the town hall. And we have a whole bunch of paint projects coming up, including a number of the green throughout the parks. That'll be like posts at both entrances of the park, both marquees, the one in the park, the one up by Broswell Road there. They're getting a little dull looking, so we'll be painting them. We also have a small deck that's in the works for the side of number 11 Timor Park Road. That's basically just going to cover up an old deteriorating cement porch that's there. And as always, the grass never stops growing, especially this season. There have been multiple events up at the Equestrian Center at this point, but the June 5th horse poll, which is the first time it's been its own standalone event and not part of Community Day, went super, super well. My wife and my dad and I were able to swing through in the morning, and we watched the mini horses, and they really seem to be a fan favorite of everybody. And then I just wanted to bring up that we do have a Music in the Park this Friday, June 25th, and we have the Arlington Jazz Bands coming for an evening of Music in the Park. There'll be a food truck there. We'll be selling refreshments as well, and that the music starts at 6 p.m.
Yeah, it's this Friday is June 18th.
Oh, sorry.
No problem. Just so they don't miss
Wrong
the
date.
night. Yeah, it's going to be a great event. All right, that's terrific. Thank you very much. There's been a lot going on. And I did want to say, which I didn't mention at the beginning, that as most of you may have noticed, that they dropped all those COVID requirements yesterday, including summer camps. So all of those protocols and those months of hard work of how we're going to, bring them in and let them go in the screening and the temperature check and all that, it was very freeing. Yeah, it was terrific. But anyway, you're right, Jake. They've done a great job. And as you and your team have too. Thank you very much. All right, we'll see you later.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, next up, we're going to move quickly to old business. First up is Furnace Pond Dam. The status of the dam is that the engineers came out once and have took some sediment samples and looked at the water and did some various things. And just today, I spoke with the engineer. We're getting a report early next week. If not tomorrow, it'll be early next week. And the sediment samples came back extremely clean. Tiny little traces of metals, but very little. And they said, and they were in lots of different places in the pond. So that's good news. And we'll get the in-depth report next week. And then we're waiting for, we need to start, actually, the county might be able to help us with this. We've got to start working on lowering the water, draining it a little bit so they can get in and conduct the boring test, and that'll be the next thing that's up. So we're making progress there. They're just waiting for the water. All this rain and everything hasn't helped them. So if we make a commitment to start the drainage, then they'll be ready to move in right after. Dutchess County's workers' comp plan. The town board, we will be having a discussion, an executive session discussion, maybe as early as one night next week. With our attorney, because we've been going back and forth with the county. They were trying to settle this matter of exiting the plan, and they are a little stingy about sharing information, which they made us wait a couple of months to get information. It was not everything that we asked for, but we are still making progress, which is good. We all complained that the program was not the right program for us, and the increase of 350% of our premiums in 1 year was never going to fly with us. And we're still with a company that's less than that. So we're doing fine, but we do need to get this behind us. So I think we're close to that. And I'll be notifying you as soon as we're there with a suggested number based on the information we have received. And then we'll talk. So that is going to be coming soon. The flags and pole on Route 55, Councilman Drillen, can can you talk a little bit about our ETA on when we maybe give an overview on the plan, because some people on here might not have heard it before?
Yeah, so the last meeting, the work session, we made it a voting meeting, and we finally came up with our plan. So we're putting in a 35-foot flagpole with a 6x10 flag, and basically it should be here in hopefully 4 weeks.
Great. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Okay. Unionvale Library Planning. Oh, okay. Let me tell you. So the Unionvale Library Planning. So here we are with this. So we should get the committee back on and to talk to everybody. They are waiting for 501c3 designation, which should be forthcoming pretty soon. There was a very good meeting with the Albany Library Development staff, the whole group of people that are the lady that runs it, everybody else about the proper way to fundraise set up for the library, and they discussed the location that was chosen, which is the barn down in the park, and they went through everything, and the plans looked very good. We talked about budgeting. John, we were listening in and heard that it was a really good call.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. The budgeting is the operating budget of a library can really vary by a lot of things. And one of the examples that was talked about was Claverack up in Columbia County, who has a population of 7,700 people, and they have a budget of less than 150,000. And they're doing really well. They just finished a $2 million renovation, and they're doing really well. So I think the budgets can really vary based on, in our case, there'll be a lot of synergies with recreation because of where the location would be. So anyway, it was a great conversation. And then the people that are on the committee that are waiting for the 501c3 so they can start fundraising, the plan as discussed with, I chatted with them yesterday, and Peter Krull, which is heading that group. And what they want to do is start coming out and explaining. They want to have bi-monthly work sessions here so they can invite people in with a consultant. And there will be a lot of talking with residents to find out, based on that plan that Paul Mays came up with, the architect, how might that be tweaked? What do the residents want? I know the intention was to have a very high-tech atmosphere down there with a cyber cafe and let people watch their kids play soccer and have a cup of coffee, in addition to having lots of hookups. But they also want to be extremely, they want to be very high-tech, and have started talking to some corporations. 3 very large corporations in the area have already said that they would definitely be interested in helping us set up a library. There hasn't been a no yet. So I think they're very encouraged. They're not going to do anything official. Yeah, by these big companies. So they're not going to do anything official until somebody can submit a tax exempt donation. So they're going to start kicking that off. They do want the town board to think about speeding up it's definitely an interesting discussion. We've already talked about a $350,000 roof repair that's going to be required either out of fund balance or that other money. And that we would give that to the library group if they were ready to go. And then they've looked at a lot of other libraries. There was one especially up in New Hampshire that was very impressive. And they want to, at some point they're going to come when they get their numbers in a row. They're going to ask the town board if we would consider speeding up the process as they're out fundraising, because the preliminary the answers have been so positive. If they're out fundraising, would the board bond the issue and let them prepay it, let them pay every quarter from the money that they return. And I think right now they fully expect to raise the 1.2. I think it's 1.2 because we're in it for a few. Anyway, so they are going to come to us and say, why wait? Fund it now before interest rates go up, pre-fund it for us, and we'll just constantly pay. I guess there's a lot of libraries in other states that's how they've been handled in an interest rate increasing environment. So they don't want to wait a year. They want to start now. So we'll wait for them to package that all up and come, but it's coming our way, and we'll have to talk about that when they arrive. Town code discussion. This is what Councilman Welsh was just referring to. So here's the backdrop, and then you can talk about what you saw. Our code enforcement officer has approached the town board and asked us if we would look at the town code and permit tickets to be written in front of houses or properties where there are more than 2 cars that are being worked on, any kind of motor vehicle actually, which is in a state of repair or disassembly or looks junked, that sort of thing. And he said he's getting a lot of complaints. Now, we're talking about this now, but when you, John, went to look, what did you see?
Well, I didn't see it. I saw a need for it. There are, a lot of wonderful residences, but you look a little harder. It's harder to see now with the leaves all out, but there's more than our share, I think, of homes with more than one car that's not being used. Oh. Sorry about that. Yeah, just driving around town roads and around the town, there's not a widespread problem, but there is, I think, enough justification based on what I've seen that too many people have unnecessary unused cars sitting on their property.
Yeah.
So
Well, he's dealing with a lot of complaints now.
yeah, and I think so. George has a little more authority to deal with these complaints. I think it's justifiable to pass this resolution tonight.
Well, here's where we stand. There's no resolution, and the reason I held off on the resolution is because if you look at 151.5 in the town code, I won't read the whole paragraph, it does say it shall be unlawful for any person to store, deposit, place, maintain, or cause or permit to be stored, deposited, placed, or maintained outdoors any garbage, rubbish, and debris or junk upon any private property within the town of Unionville. But then the important part is it says it shall further be unlawful pursuant to this chapter and section 302.8 of the Property Maintenance Code of New York State for any person to park, keep, or store outdoors on any premises 2 or more inoperative or unlicensed motor vehicles, neither of which shall be at any time in a state of major disassembly, disrepair, or in the process of being stripped or dismantled, except as otherwise provided for in statute or other regulations. So what this says is that it is unlawful for anybody to have 2 or more. And I think that George was from memory thinking it was it was like 3 or more, that you could have 2. And he's been getting a lot of complaints from people. And basically the town code says it's unlawful to have 2 or more. Basically you can have 1 disassembled, disrepaired, but you can't have 2 or more.
Yeah.
So you all got that resolution. I mean, not the resolution, sorry, the town code. Did you read that the same way? I think it sounds.
That's traditionally the way it's been in town.
Yeah, I think he'd just forgotten it and he hadn't read it. And then he said, hey, I'm getting numerous complaints. There are a couple of houses with, 15 cars hidden behind fences and stuff or more. So anyway, I don't think if you all read this and you saw it and we're all in agreement, then I don't think that we need a new resolution. I think it says 2 or more. You can't have 2 or more, so you can't have 1.
Yeah.
So, and George was looking for the second one, which has been a lot of problem for neighbors. All right, so we really don't have to take any action. And he, however, will start writing some tickets for people that neighbors are complaining about, and he's asked to remove and they haven't done it. So, all right, so I think we're in agreement there. If the attorney comes back with any other interpretation, then we'll revisit the issue, but otherwise I think George is in good shape. New business. So tonight we visited, or this afternoon at 4:30, the town board went to Peckham Industries, the Wingdale facility. I mean, we all did that together. Councilman Frazier, would you like to tell us a little bit about your thoughts?
There we go. Yeah, I was pretty impressed with the operation. They've gone to great lengths to be responsible neighbors to the community and do everything they can to minimize the intrusion and such on the environment and surrounding areas with the noise and dust and just the general nuisance of an operation like that. They've been there for a long time. They're going to be there for a long time to come. And I was very impressed with the way they treated us. They answered every question you possibly could think of. And it was a nice tour of the facility.
Yeah. Councilman Welsh, would you like to?
Yeah, I'd just like to agree with Councilman Frazier and add that unfortunately, there are some myths or assumptions people have made about the facility. That's the first time I've toured it, so now I know for sure they are working in their own property. They're not going underground into the town of Unionvale or into other people's property. They are working on a mountain of rock that they have owned. It's approximately 185 acres, I believe, but it's just one huge chunk of rock that is quite significant because of the material they extract from it to build major roads like 684 and other state and local roads. Town of Unionville has been using their materials for years.
Right.
So I think some of the misgivings people may have are unfounded, that it is a responsible organization and they are working within the proper, their own property and complying with all the very strict state and federal mining rules.
Okay, Councilman McGivney.
Yeah, I'm also in agreement with Councilman Frazier and John Welsh. Went up there, they gave a very thorough tour. They answered all our questions. They were very community orientated about how they're designing to mine their material. You know, they were very helpful answering our questions. They encouraged anyone that if we have further questions that they would take them. You know, I think they're going to try to find the best way to manage the minimal impact on the surrounding areas.
I'm having computer problems here, but I will, I'm going to send, I took a lot of notes during our discussion. I'll send it out so that some people can see some of the factual things that they shared with us. But they are completely friendly and want people to call them if they're concerned. We put on the website a way that residents can sign up for the blast notifications. And there's a URL there so people can also, they can, write a complaint if they want to. But it was really interesting because we keep hearing these people say, like, I know somebody had told me that they could hear it over on Canby Road. So when we asked them about it, they said, well, there's a fault line. When we blast here, they can feel it right through that fault line. That runs over through with Canby Road, which is interesting. Now they are changing their pattern. They're moving. They've got a couple more of the larger blasts, and then they're starting to move away, like east and away from Unionville. And also they're going to probably change and do fewer and fewer of the bigger ones. Not only away from us, but it sounds like they're going back to doing fewer and fewer of them. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of facts they gave us. They really want people to come and take a tour and visit if they're concerned. And boy, they are trying to be really good citizens. Yeah. So I think we were all positively, we were just really impressed with it. So, Andrea, you may need to help me with this because I'm not going to be able to change that over on this computer. At this point, so we will send some information out on Unionvale Mail with the details. At this point, we're going to talk about the Hudson Valley Balloon Festival. And, the head of the festival, the Chamber of Commerce, is going to come. I think we have him come and present in July or probably July, and which he's interested in doing. It looks like it's going to be a great event. The town board's looked it over. We got some things that we button up beforehand, which is things like, is this good?
Yeah, I think
okay.
the microphone's on, right?
I think, I don't know. I don't know the computer, so maybe you can help. I don't know where the microphone is. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. This other one's dying. I apologize. Thanks a lot, Andrea. So anyway, we'll have Frank Costello, the president of the Chamber of Commerce, come and visit and go through it, but it sounds like an incredible event. They want to do a lot more here than they did last year now that the restrictions have just been lifted, but they are going to do fireworks Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night, September 3rd, 4th, and I think Sunday might be the 5th. So 3 nights of fireworks, food vendors, and the balloon show, and the moon glow, and the whole bit. They've got a really wonderful time planned, and we'll hear more about it. But anyway, we're excited about it because we think since we haven't had a lot of events that our residents will love it. So anyway, he'll be here, and it looks terrific. That's really all we have in new business. At this point, it's really time to go through our resolutions. The resolutions for tonight are things that have the board has discussed in several work sessions and in previous meetings. We're going to read through them, but the first one came to us as a request. This has to do with the 911 database. Would any board member like to read the resolution number 21-28? Want to read that one, Councilman Frazier? Do you have it? That was the small font one. Yeah, that was the tight one.
Actually, I think that was the one that you took.
Here. There you go. Thank you.
All righty. Whereas Dutchess County's Department of Emergency Response assists local municipalities, first responders, prepare for and respond to emergencies. And whereas the Department of Emergency Response enters all names of roads into their 911 database after receiving a resolution from the local town board requesting that a road be added to such database, enabling the appropriate response. And whereas it has been requested that a road in the town of Unionvale be added, and it is Farrier's Forge for 3028 Route 82, number 1, 3030 Route 82, number 3, 3036 Route 82, which is number 9, and now therefore be it resolved that the town of Unionvale hereby adopts the name as listed above as either a private road name or heretofore unlisted road name in said town, and be it further resolved that the town board specifically states that the private road designation shall in no way be construed to impose any liability or maintenance obligations on the town, but only to provide a means of identifying said private road for emergency response purposes.
Thank you very much, Councilman. If there's no discussion, can we have a roll call vote?
I got one question on this.
Sure.
Has Dutchess 911 approved of this, or they've been, has it run past them that they've given their approval on it?
Well, what we were,
Or is that the next step?
what will happen is we'll send it to them and then they approve it only based on our resolution. But these three.
Well, generally, they would look in their database to see if there would be another road that it would be confused with.
This is actually a driveway. It's a private.
Understood, but you know, when they call. Exactly.
Well, I think that the way that the email came into us, and it's same thing with Shady Knoll when we did that one.
Right.
It was requested by the family. We submitted it, and then 911 sent me a confirmation. And they won't even interact unless the town board sends them a resolution. That's the way it worked last time. So we're assuming it works the same way.
All right, but somehow we wound up with Gale Lane and Galley Lane at the same time.
Right.
But those were developments that were pre-approved.
I
That
know,
wasn't the town board authorizing it.
Somehow the system didn't work to have that happen, I'm saying.
I don't know, I wasn't here then.
I know, I'm well aware of that, I'm just saying. That's.
Is there, is
It's different.
there time sensitivity on this that we can't delay this one meeting and check with Dutchess Emergency Response on it?
What are we checking for exactly?
They can run this through their database and see whether or not it mimics any other road in the county where they're confused with.
So we could do that, but we could also pass a resolution and submit it to them, and then they can tell us if it's a conflict, and then we'll adjust it next time. That way, at least they've got the road done.
Yeah, but here you're giving approval and then you're gonna have to take the approval away.
But if it's a
Search on Google Maps if there is words.
and why not give it to them now if there's no conflict? It just saves
But we
us
don't-
time.
Whatever. It was a suggestion. I've been through this before in other places, and that's generally what you would do is submit it to the Dutchess 911 and have them review it
Well,
and give a recommendation, yes, that we can move forward with it.
I mean, we discussed it at the work session and you didn't mention that. I would.
Well, I didn't realize it was coming to as a resolution tonight until a couple hours ago.
Well, at the town, when we have a work session and I lay out what we're going to be doing at the town board meeting, this was very specifically mentioned, including the name Farrier's Forge. Yeah, I think we talked about the fact that there had been a fire at this house.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it had been complete. Yeah, so the houses are back up, everything back up, and the family is looking to and have they want to have a combined drive. We had a nice discussion about it, and it was expected this resolution be on this agenda. So this none of this is a surprise. I would suggest that we have a roll call vote, and if we hear from the county, there's nothing wrong with us having a different vote in a different month. But if it sails through, it sails through. I mean, we did have a discussion. It's a good point to make, but it's late. So if there's no other discussion, can we have a roll call vote? Pardon?
I'll second it.
I can't hear you, sorry. Thank you.
Roll call, Councilman Frazier,
I'd like further information before casting the vote.
Councilman Jones,
Aye.
Councilman McGinn,
Aye.
Councilman Welsh.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, resolution 2128 carries. If we have to change something, we'll absolutely do that. If we don't, then we've saved ourselves and the family a little bit of time. Good point, but we'll do that next time or, before the meeting. All right, next up, we have resolution to approve adding best value to procurement policy. We've been talking about this one for probably months.
Yeah.
And this language was given to everybody during the work session, so I'm sure you've gone through it. Councilman Welsh, are you doing? Would you mind reading?
Unionvale proposed local law number 1, 2021. The local law authorizing best value competitive bidding and procurement. Being enacted by the town board of the town of Unionvale as follows. Section 1. The Unionvale Town Board is modified to add a new chapter 65 entitled Best Value Competitive Bidding Procurement as follows. Paragraph 65-1, legislative intent and purpose. The intent of this law is to allow the town of Unionvale the option to award certain purchase contracts, including contracts for services, subject to competitive bidding under paragraph 103 of the general municipal law on the basis of a low bid or best value as defined in paragraph 163 of New York State Finance Law. 65-2, authority. This local law is enacted pursuant to the New York State Municipal Home Rule, as authorized pursuant to the New York State General Municipal Law, paragraph 103, and the New York State Financial Law, including paragraph 163, and other provisions of law authorizing the town of Unionvale to enter into contracts and engage in contracting for services. Paragraph 65-3, best value competitive bidding. Award based on best value. The town board may award purchase contracts, including contracts for services, on the basis of best value as the term is defined in New York State Finance Law, paragraph 163. All contracts or purchase orders awarded based on best value bidding basis shall require town board approval. Applicability. The provisions of this local law apply to the town purchase contracts involving an expenditure of more than $20,000 and town contracts for services including an expenditure of more than $35,000, but exclude purchase contracts necessary for the completion of a public works contract pursuant to Article 8 of the New York Labor Law and other contract that may in the future be executed under the state law from the best value option. If the dollar thresholds of the New York General Municipal Law, section 1, paragraph 103, are increased or decreased in the future by the state legislature, the dollar thresholds set forth herein shall be superseded by such as paragraph 103, and this local law shall read as if the numbers are amended to conform with said paragraph 103. Standard for best value. Goods and services procured and awarded on the basis of best value are those that the town board determines optimize quality, cost and efficiency among responsive and responsible bidders as set forth in the procurement policy adopted by the town and as amended hereafter and from time to time by the town board. Where possible, the determination shall be based on an objective and quantifiable analysis of clearly described and documented criteria as they apply to the rating of bids or offers. The criteria may include, but shall not be limited to, any or all of the following: cost of maintenance, proximity to the contractors or end use, product life, durability, product performance criteria, quality of craftsmanship, warranties. Documentation. Whenever any contract is awarded on the basis of best value instead of the lowest responsible bidder, the basis for determining the best value shall be documented. Inconsistent provisions. Any inconsistent provision of the town procurement policy as adopted prior to the effective date of this local law by resolution of the town board or as amended thereafter shall be deemed superseded by the provisions of this local law. Section 2, servability. If any section of this law shall be held unconstitutional, invalid, or ineffective in whole or in part, such determination shall not be deemed to affect, impair, or invalidate the remainder of this local law. Further, this said, the provisions of this local law are hereby determined to be declared to be servable. Effective date. This local law shall take effect upon adoption by the town board and file date of New York State Secretary of State in accordance with applications provisions of law, and specifically Article 3, Paragraph 27 of Municipal Home Rule Law.
Thank you, Councilman Welsh, for reading that. It's my job to advise the town board that pursuant to municipal home rule law of the state of New York, it will be necessary to hold a public hearing upon this law. I'm going to offer the following resolution. Whereas on June 17th, 2021, I'm introducing this local law for the town of Unionvale to be known as local law number 1 of 2021, entitled a local law authorizing best value competitive bidding and procurement. Be it resolved that a public hearing be held in relation to a local law authorizing the town to award purchase contracts on the basis of best value as authorized by the state laws set forth in the form notice hereinafter provided, at which hearing parties in interest shall have an opportunity to be heard, to be held at the Town Hall, 249 Duncan Road in LaGrangeville, New York, on July 15th, 2021 at 7:00 p.m. prevailing time, and that notice of said meeting shall be published in the official newspaper of general circulation in the town of Unionvale by the town clerk at least 5 days before such hearing, and that such notice shall be in the following form. Notice of the public hearing will read: take notice that the town board of the town of Unionvale will hold a public hearing at the town hall, 249 Duncan Road, on June 17th at 7:00 p.m. prevailing time on local law number 1, 2021, a local law of the town of Unionvale, Dutchess County, New York, authorizing the town to award purchase contracts on the basis of best value. Take further notice that copies of the aforesaid proposed local law will be available for examination at the office of the clerk in the town of Unionvale at Town Hall, 249 Duncan Road, between the hours of 8:30 a.m. and 4:00 p.m. on all business days between the date of this notice and the date of the public hearing. Take further notice that all persons interested shall have an opportunity to be heard on said proposal at the time and place aforesaid. Do I have a second on this resolution?
I will second it.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Just got to change the date in the notice of public hearing to July 15th instead of June 17th.
Right, because you didn't have it.
Oh, down here, the back page?
Well, 2
Were
places.
you read on the notice of public hearing?
You read June 17th, it should be July 15th.
Got it, yeah.
And on the last page as well.
Right, so the public hearing. Okay, is there any discussion about this? I think it's important for people to understand that this is a New York State requirement that we have a best value purchasing law. And it totally makes sense. Now, we have a procurement policy that we've removed from the town code, and there is a paragraph that alludes to it, but we've never officially passed a local law, and so it is required, and we're doing this because We want to be consistent with state law. So with that being said, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Sorry, just a quick question. The resolution to approve best value, is that separate from the resolution? You just read the local law? They just need to separate.
The resolution is the resolution and the notice of public hearing. The first part that Councilman Welsh read is information. This is the second part, was just the part that I read, which was whereas.
I think we need to vote on amending the resolution first and then go ahead and vote on the resolution. And that's why I seconded
Oh,
Kevin's
yes, I didn't
motion.
hear what you said, actually, so thank you for that. All right, all in favor of changing the public hearing date from June 17th to July 15th, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay. So now let's take a roll call vote on the,
Local law number one.
yes.
Okay, Councilman Frazier?
Aye.
Councilman Jones? Councilman Hughes? Councilman Welsh? Supervisor?
Aye. All right, local law number one passes. Thank you very much. That's been a long time coming, but we'll have our public hearing.
The state will be happy.
And then when the public hearing, I think that most people will be in favor since it's a requirement. And then we will have the following month, we will close it out with the final resolution confirming the law, the language of the law. Okay, next up, we have a resolution to change residency requirements for deputy town clerk. This would be proposed local law number 2. And I think Councilman Derlin, do you mind reading that beginning part of that? Similar format?
Sure can. All right, Town of Unionvale, proposed local law number 2, 2021. A local law authorizing a change in the residency requirement for deputy town clerk. Paragraph 72-1 findings. The town clerk has indicated to the town board that although she would like to fill the position of deputy town clerk with residents of the town, she can sometimes have difficulty doing so. Accordingly, the town clerk has asked the town board to pass a local law that will grant her the authority to hire an individual to fill the position of deputy town clerk with an individual who does not reside in the town, so that the position does not remain vacant. The town board has determined that it is in the best interest of the town to open this position to a wider pool of applicants, so that the position can be filled expeditiously when open. Paragraph 72-2, statutory authority. This article is adopted pursuant to Municipal Home Rule Law 10.1.2A1 that grants local governments the authority to enact local laws regarding the qualification of local officers. Furthermore, this article recognizes that the state legislature amended Public Officers Law, paragraph 3, by adding a new subdivision 24, expanding the residency requirements for any appointed public office in the town of Greenberg, Westchester County, thereby rendering Public Officers Law a special law with respect to any appointed town officer. And you can see the New York Attorney General's information. Paragraph 2-3, supersession of state law. The article shall supersede town law, paragraph 23-1, -1, application of the office of deputy town clerk for the town of Unionvale. Paragraph 72-5, residency requirements for deputy town clerk. The person holding the office of deputy town clerk in the town of Unionvale need not be a resident nor an elector of the town of Unionvale, provided, however, that such person shall reside in the county in which such town is located or the adjoining county within the state of New York. Effective date, this local law shall take effect upon adoption of the town board and file date of the New York State Secretary of State in accordance with applicable provisions of law, specifically Article 3, paragraph 27 of the Municipal Home Rule Law.
Thank you, Councilman, for reading the background on that. The proposed local law, it's my job to advise the town board that pursuant to the Municipal Home Rule Law of the state of New York, it will be necessary to hold a public hearing upon this law. I'd like to offer the following resolution. Whereas on June 17th, 2021, I'm introducing this local law for the town of Unionvale to be known as local law number 2 of 2021, entitled a local law authorizing a change in the residency requirement for deputy town clerk. Be it resolved that a public hearing be held in relation to a local law authorizing the town clerk to hire an individual as deputy town clerk who resides outside the town of Unionvale as authorized by state law as set forth in the form notice hereinafter provided, at which hearing parties and interests shall have an opportunity to be heard, to be held at the Town Hall, 249 Duncan Road, on July 15th, 2021 at 7 p.m. prevailing time, and that notice of said meeting shall be published in the official newspaper of general circulation in the town of Unionvale by the town clerk at least 5 days before such hearing, and that such notice shall be in the following form. Notice of public hearing. Take notice that the town board of the town of Unionvale will hold a public hearing at the Town Hall, 249 Duncan Road, on July 15th, 2021 at 7:00 p.m. Prevailing time on local law number 2 of 2021, a local law in the town of Unionvale, Dutchess County, New York, authorizing the town clerk to hire an individual as deputy town clerk who resides outside of the town of Unionvale. Take further notice that copies of the aforesaid proposed local law will be available for examination at the office of the clerk of the town of Unionvale at the Town Hall, 249 Duncan Road, between the hours of 9:30 a.m. and 4:00 p.m. on all business days between the date of this notice and the date of the public hearing. Take further notice that all persons interested shall have an opportunity to be heard on said proposal at the time of the place aforesaid. Do I have a second for this?
Yes,
Two corrections. It should, down underneath notice of public hearing, should say local law number 2.
That's what I said.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And did we change the date?
I did. Yep, thank you. Is there a second? Did you second it? Great, thank you very much. Now, just as for discussion, we have a new hire starting on Monday. And that new hire is also going to be deputy town clerk. So this, yeah, yeah, and she's a town resident.
So if she moves, it's okay.
If she moves, it's okay. Yeah, no more moving. And also, so this is a kind of a future-oriented preventative thing because it gets harder and harder to find people, doesn't it?
Yeah, this last time, showed me that.
Is Kevin unmuted?
The last selection process kind of highlighted that it is sometimes difficult to find someone to work this short amount of hours for this very specific amount of pay. So just having the flexibility to go outside of that if need be is reassuring so that I can fill the position, with a qualified individual who wants it and it works for their schedule.
Right. And I know when you came to us, you said, you obviously would always prefer to hire a resident, even with just flexibility.
Right. You know about the town, that's who you want, representing the town is people that are well informed. So this is just in case.
Gives you some flexibility. That's great. And I would also tell everybody the interesting thing is we were looking for an experienced planning board, zoning board, land use secretary, and we got 103 resumes. One qualified person out of 103, one person with a background. So I think foresight should be commended because it's not easy to find people that are qualified or that will work. So, all right, any other discussion or questions about that for the town clerk while she's here? All right, no other questions. I would ask for a roll call vote, please.
Councilman Frazier?
Aye.
Councilman Durland?
Aye.
Councilman McGivney?
Aye.
Councilman Welsh?
Aye.
Supervisor Moss?
Aye. Okay, so we will have a public hearing on July 15th. And these will be one right after the other. They'll be concurrent and on proposed local law number 2. And then of course, we'll start with local law that night, number 1.
Yeah.
We don't believe that either of them are, going to be controversial in any way since one is required by law. So we gave them a short amount of time. We'll extend that if necessary. Okay. All right. Unless there are any other questions, can I have a motion to pay the bills, please?
So moved.
Is there a second to pay the bills? Second. All right, all in favor of paying the bills, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that motion carries. We will pay the bills. Now we have one section of public comments. Does anybody have anything that they would like to say?
Got one up here.
Oh, I'm looking on the screen.
Solar farm, when is it going on, or is it online?
It's not online. No, they have a punch list that they were allowed to go online to test to make sure that it worked correctly. And they have a list of things that they're checking off and doing for our building department, and at that point, they should be ready to go online. So we had a meeting with them last week. We thought that, you know, I don't know how long it'll take them to go through those items, but two of them were pretty, you know, tedious. And then they should be ready, and I was hoping they'd be ready this month. So we'll be pushing them along, but it is imminent. And we will let you know as soon as they finish. Okay, good question. Any others? All right, I don't see any chats or any hands going up. So, oh, wait a minute, Joyce has a hand up. Is that correct, Joyce? Nope. All right, sorry, Joyce, wasn't you.
All right, the motion will be.
Oh. Eileen, are you raising your hand? Would you like to make a comment?
I would like to ask the question. Can you hear me?
Yes. It's a comment section. Did you want something? Did you want to make a comment about something?
I wanted to, well, I thought I was going to be able to make a comment or ask the question about the library plans. May I?
You can make a comment, sure. I can't hear you very well, but as long as Kevin can, you can share it.
Okay.
You want to make a comment? Okay, go ahead.
Sure. I remain confused as to why you would consider it a superior plan. Assuming that you're comparing the cost of running the library to Claverack. Claverack gets $73,500 through town revenue in support of the library. The rest of the money is fundraising and donations.
Right.
Why would it be a better idea for Unionvale to go through the expense and delay and trouble of building a library when you could get exactly the same services as Claverack for $77,000 a year?
So Eileen, if you have a comment, we're glad to hear it. It's not the time to ask a question and have a library discussion. We're going to be having lots of workshops to discuss that. You can call me on the phone tomorrow and I'll share with you all the things we've covered in these town board meetings. But if you want to make a comment, that's fine, but a Q&A, it's not.
Actually, I just wanted to share my opinion.
We can go through all of it then. We just don't have the time. I think it's a real.
All right, I just want to share my opinion as to the absurdity of going through all that expense when you can get better service for less money.
Well, duly noted. I think
Thank
a lot
you.
of people agree with you, and we will have some workshops about it. You can share it again. All right.
All right.
All right. Are there any other comments? Nope. Okay. Have a motion to adjourn? I'll second that. All right. Let's go ahead and adjourn, and we'll see everybody next month. All right. Thank you for holding out with us. Have a good night.
Next month is 2 weeks.
I know.